Let's pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and, frankly, most misunderstood psychological tools in human interaction. We're going to deconstruct a strategy where being stable isn't just a state of being, it's a weapon. We're talking about calmness as a direct tool for dominance and how one person's stable nervous system can literally seize control of a room. This is the anatomy of the biological anchor.
It's a total paradox, right? We're taught to believe that power is loud, that it's aggressive, but the truth is, it's far more clinical. In any high-stakes moment, the person who is least moved by the chaos is the one who ultimately controls it. So we're going to break down exactly how this works, why it's so incredibly effective, and most importantly, how you can navigate it. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose what we call the reactive panic. Then we'll dissect the anatomy of control. After that, we dive into the psychology of submission to see why we're so vulnerable to this. Then, critically, we'll give you the Stabilization Protocol so you can reclaim your own sovereignty. And finally, we'll boil it all down to one master's insight. Okay, let's start with a diagnosis. And I want you to think of this not as some kind of personal failure, losing your cool. Think of it as a hijack, a clinical, predictable takeover of your nervous system. And once you understand it, you can manage it. You've been there, a tense negotiation, a difficult conversation with a boss or a partner. And the person across from you is just still. Their posture is relaxed, their gaze is steady, and meanwhile you can feel this storm just brewing inside you. It's like the more animated and upset you get, the calmer and more still they become.
And that's the first domino to fall. Your body's threat detection system just goes into overdrive. Now, to get what's happening, you have to understand a little bit about polyvagal theory. Think of your nervous system as a ladder. At the top, you're calm, you're connected. But when your brain senses a threat, you start falling down that ladder. And that spike in heart rate, that's the sound of you hitting the next rung, your sympathetic nervous system. That's fight or flight. The adrenaline is already pumped.
Right along with that adrenaline, your breathing gets short and it gets shallow. And this isn't just a symptom, it's a vicious feedback loop. The less oxygen you get to your brain, the more you're cemented in that panic state. Your ability to think rationally, the one thing you desperately need right now, just begins to dissolve. You're now running on your primitive, reactive brain. And the cruelest irony of all is that as you're gasping for air, they seem to be breathing even slower, even deeper, which sends a signal to your ancient survival brain that they are in total control.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It feels like you're living in two completely different realities. Your inner world is pure chaos, while their external state is just absolute calm. This isn't an accident. This power imbalance, it's the entire point of the strategy. You are being actively managed.
What's happening to you actually has a clinical name, the erosion of executive sovereignty. It's a brilliant piece of psychological judo. The calm operator has seized what we call the physiological high ground. Just think about the mental bandwidth you're using in that moment. You're not just trying to solve the problem, you're also fighting a war against your own biology, wrestling your own heart rate. This battle consumes all your resources, leaving you totally exposed. In effect, your nervous system is being outsourced. It's being regulated by theirs.
So how do they actually do it? This isn't some kind of magic trick. It's a system, a predictable one. So let's dissect the core mechanic. We call it the stability correction loop. This is the engine that drives the whole interaction.
At the very heart of this system is the biological anchor. The operator literally becomes an unmoving point in a chaotic sea. Their physiological stability, that slow heart rate, that deep breathing, it acts like a gravitational force. Everyone else who's caught in the storm of their own panic starts to unconsciously pivot and adjust their emotional state to them. It's a profound, subtle way to set up a dominance hierarchy without saying a single threatening word. They become the baseline for reality in that room.
And the process is incredibly methodical. It happens in 4 phases. First, there's a high arousal trigger, some crisis that puts everyone on edge. Step 2, the operator projects the exact opposite, a calm, parasympathetic baseline. Now here's the leverage point. Phase 3, the mirror neuron mismatch. See, our brains are wired to sync up. Your brain tries to mirror their calm, but, and this is crucial, they refuse to mirror your panic. This creates a neurological tension that forces your brain to correct itself downward, toward their baseline. And that's the moment control shifts. Finally, phase 4, the anchor release. They offer a simple solution, and your exhausted brain gratefully latches onto it. The trap closes.
Okay, so that's how it works. But now we need to understand why it works. I mean, why are we such suckers for this? Well, the answer is buried deep in our evolutionary wiring, a survival code that a skilled operator can exploit with absolute precision. Think about it. For millions of years, our survival hinged on this one simple rule. When a predator appeared or a crisis hit the tribe, the one who didn't flinch was the one who probably had a plan or had superior knowledge. Our brains literally evolved to see stability not just as a personality trait, but as a direct, non-negotiable signal of high status and competence. We see that unshaken person and our ancient brain just goes, follow them, they know how to survive. It's a safety shortcut. And this really lays it all out. On one side, you've got your brain's natural shortcut, this survival heuristic that says calm equals safe, calm equals competent. It's super efficient for making snap judgments. But on the other side, the operator weaponizes that exact instinct. They're projecting calm not because they necessarily are more competent, but to trigger your shortcut and make you believe they are. They are using your own survival code as the key to unlock your compliance.
And this weaponization works because it springs several cognitive traps on you at once. First, you get hit with the halo effect. We see one good trait, calmness, and our brain just assumes they must have other good traits like being smart or honest, even with zero evidence. Then comes the anchor trap. Their lack of fear becomes an anchor for our own thinking. We just assume they must know something we don't. And finally, the spotlight effect turns our attention inward. We become painfully self-conscious of our racing heart or shaking hands, convinced that everyone can see it. This trifecta is absolutely devastating. It cranks up our cognitive load and pushes us further and further into submission. Okay, we have diagnosed the problem. We have dissected the mechanics. Now let's shift from analysis to application. How do you defend yourself? How do you take back your own sovereignty in these moments? This is the Stabilization Protocol. Think of it as your defensive toolkit.
The whole system we've been talking about relies on one thing: your unconscious reaction. It needs you to just react without thinking. So the single most powerful thing you can do is to break that loop. You have to consciously shift your mindset from being a participant in the drama to an observer of the dynamic. You stop just feeling the tension and you start noticing the tactic.
So here's your first actionable step. The moment you feel that panic rising, you have to label what's happening in your own mind. Literally say to yourself, okay, this is a parasympathetic dominant signal, or they're trying to become the biological anchor. Just naming it is incredibly powerful because it keeps your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex, online. It pulls you out of that emotional hijack and breaks the spell before it can take hold.
Now let's get into the full protocol. Step 1, like we said, is cognitive reappraisal. You name the game. Step 2 is to establish your own internal anchor. And this is where a simple technique like box breathing becomes your shield. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This isn't just some relaxation trick, it's pure physiology. By controlling your breath, you control the CO2 levels in your blood, which sends a direct signal to your brain that the threat is gone. You are holding your own baseline. And step 3 is the pacing audit. A classic tactic is for the operator to speak slowly, creating these long, uncomfortable silences. Your panicked brain will scream at you to fill that silence. Don't do it. Rushing is a submissive signal. Instead, match their tempo. Speak as slowly as they do. This sends a powerful message that your sovereignty is fully intact.
All right, we've gone through the diagnosis, the mechanism, the psychology, and the counterattack. So now, let's distill all of this down into one single, powerful strategic principle. This is the master's insight that governs this entire dynamic.
That's it. That's the fundamental truth of this entire system. Action is not weakness. Reaction is submission. The second you are emotionally reacting to someone else's state, you have handed them the controls. Your emotional response has become a lever that they can pull anytime they want, and just being aware of this fact is what makes the whole system collapse.
So this is the ultimate takeaway here. In any social situation, power doesn't automatically go to the loudest person or the one with the biggest title. When there's conflict, when there's crisis, power flows to the point of greatest stability. The person who can regulate their own internal world gains the incredible leverage to regulate the entire environment. They don't just influence the room, they become the reality of the room.
And so we end with this mantra. This is the entire masterclass distilled into one line. It's not about who has the fastest pulse from adrenaline. It's about who has control over their pulse. Who can stay steady when everything and everyone else is shaking. That person holds the real power.
And so we leave you with that question. Now you can see the anchor. You understand the mechanism. And once you see it, you can't be unconsciously moved by it anymore. This knowledge is a tool. You can use it to defend yourself. Or, if you're a leader, you can use it to create a zone of safety for your team when they're under pressure. The choice is now yours. The only question left is, who's going to control the pulse?